Obsidian is riding high right now. No other studio has taken advantage of Xbox Game Studios' resources, and the bigger spotlight being a new first-party studio more than Obsidian Entertainment. Since becoming a first party, Obsidian has released The Outer Worlds, a first-person perspective RPG very similar to the Fallout series, but in space. It launched to critical acclaim and was extremely well received by the gaming community, taking advantage of Bethesda's missteps in this genre. Then the announcement and release of Grounded, a survival game with a Honey I Shrunk the Kids vibe. It was a major change of pace from what gamers expected from Obsidian, but nonetheless, it was pretty successful on Steam and something that the studio wanted to flex with their newfound creative freedom. And now we have Avowed, a first and third person perspective RPG that seems to have taken the Elder Scrolls format and applied it to the Pillars of Eternity universe. Not to mention the Outer Worlds expansion, Peril on Gorgon, that is continuing the story from the first game, and it's no surprise that Obsidian is winning polls for who is Xbox Game Studios' best developer, which is why so many people are excited about Avowed. This is the first game where Obsidian hasn't needed to compromise their vision of their game due to lack of time or a publisher who has different goals. As I've discussed in a prior video, Xbox Game Studios allows their first-party developers to make what they want, and Obsidian is taking full advantage. Avowed takes place in the world of Eora, which means it is in the same universe as the Pillars of Eternity games, and is going to be a fully open world game. Think Skyrim, but in a world far more dense and alive, and hopefully, in my opinion, much better combat. There is a list of leaked details that, although haven't been verified and probably won't be for a while, I think we should address. I already mentioned the large open world and setting in Pillars of Eternity universe. Here are the other details. Avowed will have a big focus on world reactivity, lighting, and next-gen AI systems and physics. A special focus on physics with magic systems. This will explain why the game won't be available on last-gen consoles. It's just way too advanced. Real-time weather system is going to be available here. We don't have full details, but fog is very important as a real-time element. With rivers, they'll have specific micro-physics systems regarding those. Avow is going to have a very advanced character creation tool. This will be key, in my opinion, in getting players invested in the game. When you create a character and the character looks cool, the character looks very unique, you're a little bit more invested in how that character performs in the game and what that character does. Avow will also have mod support. For now, PC will be very dominant as the major creation tool, but the mods that are created will be playable on Xbox. There will be a very large number of factions, but also a very different approach to those than with Skyrim. You'll also be able to have companions. Those also will be implemented differently than they were in the Outer Worlds. And as far as the story goes, you'll be fighting against incoming threats of tyranny, independent from previous stories in Pillars of Eternity 1 and 2. The game will have bosses planned, and some of them are expected to be very large. 2 cities are planned, with smaller ones with strong focus on contrasting wild areas, rivers, mountains, and desolated areas. There will be a dynamic presentation of dialogue. I guess what this is referencing is how you will see the dialogue choices as they pop up on screen. So I guess this is a UI specific detail. And although this may change in the future, they want to keep the idea that you have from Elder Scrolls games where you can kill everyone in the game. And yeah, they may actually ruin some quests for you, but it's an option that you have. Now, Avowed has around 100 people on the project right now in development of this game for the past 2 years. The game was also in pre-production with a much smaller number for 7 months. So in total, the game's been in development for 2 years and 7 months. The team will continue to grow, and there's a tentative target release window of late 2022 to early 2023. So all that sounds great, but let's discuss something else I'm not too enthused about. There has been job listings that reference a number of positions they'd like to fill for development of Avowed. One in particular, for the position of gameplay programmer, is looking for a candidate that has experience in multiplayer game development. This is a clear indicator that this game will feature multiplayer in some way, and honestly, I'm tired of seeing this. Again, the Xbox division and all of their newly acquired studios have spoken multiple times on how they have the creative freedom to make whatever they want. But it seems to me that most of them want to make multiplayer games. You'd think out of 15 studios that one of them would be providing a single player game by now, especially considering some of the best games they've had this gen have been single player games like Ori and Cuphead. Yes, I know those were second party games, but still exclusive to the Xbox ecosystem. Now, I do suspect that Hellblade 2, The Outer Worlds 2, and Fable may be single player games, but I would prefer more of those, especially from studios that have an extensive history with single player titles like Obsidian. Okay, ran over. Now it occurs to be that some of you may not be familiar with Obsidian Entertainment, and let me help you out with that. Obsidian was founded in 2003 by Fergus Earhart, Chris Avallone, Chris Parker, Darian Monahan, and Chris Jones. They were ex-employees of Black Owl Studios, which was a development studio under Interplay. Interplay was known for a lot of big games in the 80s to early 2000s. They were originators of such hits like Bard's Tale, Fallout, Earthworm Jim, and Baldur's Gate. Black Owl was specifically responsible for Fallout and Baldur's Gate, two games that defined Western RPGs and laid the foundation of what we see from RPGs to this day. Half of the Black Owl studios went on to form BioWare, while the other half made Obsidian Entertainment. Their very first game as the studio was Star Wars Knights of the Old Republic 2. The Sith Lords, a follow-up to BioWare's amazing Knights of the Old Republic. Both games are considered among the best RPGs ever created. They went on to make the one game they may be the most famous for, Fallout New Vegas, and Obsidian's name as a major RPG studio was solidified. Now, as an independent developer, even one that makes high quality content, you always have to wonder where the next project is coming from. It's insanely stressful, and without a game to work on and a steady influx of money coming in, you're looking at having to close your studio, and when you grow into the size Obsidian had with over 150 developers, it becomes a very delicate balance. Obsidian entered into a contract with Microsoft Studios to make an ambitious MMORPG called Stormlands. It was slated to be a launch title for Microsoft's new console, Xbox One. It was going to have massive raids, use the Kinect to do the character creator, and a multitude of innovative ideas we've yet to even see today, but due to development issues and an incompatibility with the former leadership of Xbox, the game was cancelled and Obsidian nearly had to close. What saved them was going back to their roots by developing a brand new isometric RPG called Pillars of Eternity. This game was developed on a shoestring budget and kickstarted by hardcore Obsidian fans. This, as well as releasing South Park: The Stick of Truth for Ubisoft, allowed Obsidian to survive long enough to be the studio that they are today. A very different Xbox division, in philosophy at least, convinced Obsidian to be acquired with the understanding that they could retain their creative freedom, as Obsidian still uses tools and game designs that most gamers today may find archaic. But this old school way of development is the reason why their stories are so engaging, and the amount of choice they allow the player when it comes to dialogue and narrative remains rich and unique in today's gaming industry. Here is Megan Starks, senior narrative designer, explaining how their narrative trees work.
So I thought you guys might want to see the tools, because a lot of people are like, hey, I'd love to be a writer in the games industry, and if you're going to be a writer at Obsidian, this is kind of what it looks like. The way that we build out our conversations is these are nodes, and within the nodes we have the string. So you can, the nodes will have like different scripting on them and conditional checks and stuff like that, and then the string within it is the actual text that displays. So for example, right here, you can ask Ada like, hey, do you have a favorite among the crew? It's me, right? And then we check, do you have any companions with you? If you don't, then she'll say this line, which is like, well, you're the only crew member, so by default it's you. If you do have companions, then it will actually go to this line where she's like, can you explain more about what you're talking about? And then it'll progress through the conversation. This conversation has 601 nodes in it. And then to give you an idea, this is like Sam's banter, so you can see this conversation is much smaller. So right. This is his, when he's talking with other companions as running around the world in the game. This is pretty straightforward, and this one is much more spiderwebby.
This is a tool that was built in-house?
Yes, it was built in-house, and they've been using it for about, I think, 7 years, okay. And we just keep adding on to it. But I think this is the third studio that I've worked at in-house, and I think these are like by far the strongest game writing tools that I've worked with.
What type of problems are they solving for you?
It makes organization, especially for branching dialogue, much easier. I can't imagine trying to write a conversation of this size in like an Excel spreadsheet or doing it in Word.
So it shouldn't be any surprise why I and many other gamers are excited for what Obsidian may be able to deliver with a budget that isn't limited, the freedom to make what they want, and the enough time to make it happen. Let me know what you guys think about Avowed and Obsidian Entertainment. Let me know in the comment section below. Hit the like button if you liked the video. Hit the dislike button if you didn't. It's all good. And hit the subscribe button if you want to see more about Avowed and other deep dives into developers in the future. Peace.